Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Floyd.
All right, so I did something different this time, Mike, and enabled the waiting room, and I guess I shouldn't have did that because I have to let everybody in as they get there instead of just dumping them into the meeting. So I learned a lesson tonight. So still waiting on our featured guest, Katie Maras, here. She went to an undisclosed location for some time away from everything. So I'm gonna let her get off the beach or wherever she is and get to her computer. But we can certainly get started, and as soon as she gets here, we'll let her in from the waiting room so that she can give us what she has for us tonight. I wanted to start tonight first by saying thank you to everybody who, for anybody who didn't know, my dad was in the hospital this weekend. He's still in the hospital now. He should be home tomorrow, but he has some issues with breathing with his lungs that's not going to get any better. But anyways, wound up in the hospital on Friday right after the Patriots game. It's just an appropriate ending to the Patriots, I guess, for a New England guy. And I appreciate everybody that reached out and gave me their support and well wishes and prayers. Thank you all very, very much. That's what this is all about, is having a community when you need it. So usually we start with wins. Usually it's a couple of weeks. It's been a few more than that. I think 3 weeks now because we had the holidays that get in there since we've been back here. And, if anybody has some wins that they would like to share with us, we are all ready to hear wins. Anybody can start that. Whoever wishes to hop in first, go right ahead. If your mic is muted, just make sure you mute yourself. And everybody.
All right, I'll start. Had an incredible dealer group meeting today. It was awesome.
All right, Paul. Good deal.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I apologize. This is Reed. I have a waiting thing on my screen, so I don't even know if I was participating or not. But we had a big win today at a dealer group. We exchanged the old pay plan for a BDC from show and sold to activity based. So we're looking forward to seeing the outcome there.
Excellent. Good deal. Good. Anybody else? Paul, you're looking dapper tonight, buddy.
Oh, I also had another great experience. I had actually a fan of mine reach out, saw I was at a place, reach out, and took me out to dinner.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, Paul, I expect you to be taking me to dinner next week then.
I can guarantee you, no matter who's paying, you can bet Paul's taking pictures of the dinner.
I'm in.
For sure.
No doubt there. All right, so we're gonna just entertain ourselves here a little bit until Katie gets here.
You juggle?
Seriously, if I ever decide to do the waiting room again, please tell me not to do this. This is I can't. All right, so Katie is stuck in a waiting room somewhere. I got to figure out.
Yes, I am too. Mine's just spinning and saying waiting.
And I've let everybody in, and you're there. We can hear you and see you.
Right. Well, I can. That's all I need, right? Unless there's a visual.
All right. Let me see if there's somebody. Katie says she's stuck in the waiting room. We just have to figure out how to let her in. Oh, There's another one.
I might try to re-log in to myself since she's not here yet.
Can you hear me now, Dave?
I can, sir.
Okay. Just to add to the win for the week, we started working with Fisker Automotive, so that's a new one for us.
Excellent. Good job.
Nice win for the week. Sorry, my audio's cutting in and out.
That's all right. You sound fine. That's a good deal.
All right, good. Sorry to hear about your dad, by the way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I didn't hear it. What happened?
Well, my dad ended up in the hospital on Saturday night.
Oh,
So he has it's called pulmonary fibrosis. It's scarring inside his lungs that just there's no cure for it. It just gets worse and worse. He's 80, almost 85. Obviously lived through the days when they didn't really take any precautions when they were doing things. So, and now that's that kind of stuff has caught up to him.
sorry to hear, man.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Well, Paul, you look dapper with that nice red tie on.
Thank you. Thank you. My power tie for the meeting today.
I like it.
All right, we
That's
got to
good.
rescue Katie out of this stupid waiting room.
Tell her to sign out and sign back in because now I can see everybody.
Yeah, that's what I just did. So,
Yeah, I had to sign in twice.
all right. I get it.
If at first you don't succeed, sign in again.
Yep.
First,
From
you
the
try-
beginning.
if at first you try a waiting room, don't do it again.
Right.
I don't know what the point of the waiting room is, but oh, there she is. All right, Katie, do we have you now?
Doesn't look like Katie.
Partially.
Okay, hold on.
Katie. There she is.
I don't want to.
That looks like Katie.
Yep.
All right.
I would say.
Can you hear us, Katie?
I can. I'm on.
Yes,
Yay,
there
it
she
works.
is.
Hi, everyone.
I was telling everyone this is the first time I've enabled a waiting room, and I will never do it again because it's not working well. So.
I do have to apologize in advance. I am in a remote place on a writing sort of heads down exhibition. So if my internet goes out and in, I do apologize.
All right, not a problem. We get it. So I don't know how many are familiar with Katie. I'm sure most of you are. Katie is an international speaker. She is the I don't know if it's author, but the founder of 5-Star Experience. And she's here today to talk to us about looking at the customer experience in a different way, which is perfect for this group who doesn't accept the status quo. And so, Katie, I'm just going to give you the floor because you are a way better speaker.
Okay.
And take it away. It's all yours.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm super excited to be talking to everyone. I hope that this is interactive, first of all, because I want to answer your questions. So interrupt me at any point in time. This is about you. It's not about me, and I want to make sure I give you the information that you need to grow and be better. And so I'm super humbled, and Dave, thank you for inviting me on. I'm super excited to be here. I am a speaker. I am a business owner. So I am a founder of one organization and a co-founder of another, Alchemy Group, which actually my partner has over 40 years experience in fixed ops, and that is what he does. And he goes and works with fixed ops through the service drive with service managers, with fixed ops managers, as well as service advisors. So he is he is awesome. We should get him on the show. He would be amazing. But basically what I do, though, is take all that lovely process that we know very, very well, and I turn it into an experience for the customers. So I don't, I look from an employee point of view, but I also look from an customer experience point of view, and we elevate the experience through providing a 5-star experience. Can you all still hear me? I just want to make sure the internet is still working.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I'm also an author, and my book comes out and that's why I'm away right now. I have a whole bunch of rewrites that I'm doing for my publisher, and it's on the female consumer. So how we can transform your current brand experience into something that she can't live without. And women, well, we rule the world, but no, we also selfishly we rule the world, but we also actually influence over $28 trillion of worldwide spending. And she weighs heavy in the auto industry, especially when it comes to who she chooses to service her car with. And so my book comes out end of August, beginning of September, and it's how you can tailor that brand experience to the female consumer. And so today, though, Dave asked me to come on to speak about the 5-star experience. So how do we take what you currently do in your service drive and elevate that experience so that customers keep choosing you over and over again? So what I thought I would do is take you through the 5 steps to creating a 5-star experience. I do want this to be, as I said, as open as possible. So as I go through, I want you to stop me and I want you to ask me questions and let me know if things don't make sense or if I'm moving too quickly, because this isn't about me. This is about you, and I want to make sure that you're learning. Does that sound good, everyone?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yet, as I like to say, yes or yes.
Yes.
I'll go with yeah.
All right. Wonderful. All right. So the first, I want to share a story with you, actually. So I recently went out of my way. So with every dealership that I work with and I partner with, I actually either get myself, if the team doesn't know who I am, or I get a team member, a trainer, to go in and secret shop the dealer. So whether it's through the service drive or from a sales perspective, and we go through the test drive and the whole sales experience. I most recently went about 40 minutes out of my way to be with to secret shop a dealer outside of the Toronto area, the greater Toronto area. And I rolled into a service drive. And so when I rolled in, I got out of my car, and I drive a Hyundai. So it was a Hyundai dealership. And I got out of my car, I closed the door, and I stood by my car. Does anybody want to take a guess at how long you think I stood by my car for?
13 minutes.
15.
Pretty well. Yeah, 13 minutes roughly, in and around there. I stood beside my driver's door without anybody saying a word to me or acknowledging me. And then an older gentleman came up to me and said, "Do you have your keys?" And I said, "Yes, of course, I have them right here." And I handed him my keys. He goes, "Thanks, darling." I was like, "Oh my goodness, thanks, darling. Are you kidding me? We're in the 21st century, but that's okay." He took my keys, but what do you think he did then?
Walked away.
He left me standing there. He walked away and he left me standing there. And then finally, a service advisor didn't come up to me. He called me over. He's like, "Come over here." Didn't know my name, anything like that. Didn't address me, just over here. And so I walked over to his desk, and he's propped up on one of the tall chairs, and he's got, because we have these lovely tablets now, right? So he's got his tablet in front of him, and he is asking me all the questions. Name, Katie. Why are you here? And he's looking at his tablet, and he's not looking up at me, and he's going through his laundry list of questions. Does anybody want to guess how many minutes I went without having eye contact?
22.
No, well, if you actually combine the two, yes, 22, but it was 8 or 9 minutes. I was sitting there while he asked me all his questions, and he never looked at me, not once. And the only time he didn't ever use my name, because he asked me my name. Then he hopped off his chair, took my keys. Somehow they magically appeared on the service advisor's desk, and he took his tablet and he did his walk around where he takes all the photos. Now I know what he's doing, but a regular customer might not. So I stood there beside his desk, no eye contact, no use of name, and he's walking around my vehicle. Then he comes full circle and he looks at me finally and says, "Will you be staying or leaving?"
Oh, okay.
So said, I'm staying. He goes, okay, come with me. And he, no joking, walks 10 feet in front of me as he guides me to the waiting area. He sits me down, doesn't give me a time estimate, nothing. An hour goes by. 1 hour. The problem with time going by is that your customers are actually making up self-narratives. They're making up stories in their head about what's going on, and it's not always positive. An hour goes by. Finally, he comes back to me. He kneels down beside me. And gentlemen, I think it's all gentlemen on here. Do I have any ladies on here? I'm looking
Not
quickly.
tonight. Not tonight.
Not tonight. Okay, so gentlemen, he kneeled down beside me and he used my name for the first time. Why do you think he used my name for the first time?
He wanted money.
He wanted money. You got it. So he then proceeded to tell me all the extra things, like my alignment was off, my brake pads in my front needed to be done, my back tires needed to be rotated. So he wanted money from me, and he looked me in the eye. He used my name because he wanted money. After I said yes, no, yes, he quickly got, scurried away, and I didn't see him for another hour and a half. So 2.5 hours waiting, about 30 minutes of zero eye contact. And gentlemen, and I ended up paying because, listen, I knew what I was there to do, but I still would have, because I mean, certain things needed to be done to my vehicle. I still couldn't tell you his name to this day. Not once did he introduce himself. So when that lovely CSI survey comes into my inbox, which, being a woman, we will fill out. Women are the ones, and I actually dare you to take a look at all of gender that fills out your CSIs, men versus women. You're going to get a higher percentage of women that fill out these surveys. Not once did he mention his name. So I could not even, if it was good at any point, give him kudos. I couldn't even tell the dealership who was serving me. I paid and I went on my way. This, unfortunately, isn't the first time that I've had something like this happen. I actually got into the car industry because of a really, excuse my language, I have permission to say shitty on this call. Am I good?
You do.
All right, so I had a really, okay, good. All right, so I had a really shitty car buying experience 3 years ago. And that is what got me into the industry. I couldn't believe that, first of all, in today's day and age with millennials, vehicles are the largest purchase that they're making because they can't afford homes. So it is the largest lump sum of money that they're going to put towards anything other than rent. How we are not providing an experience for that type of money. I mean, I get a better experience when I go to Chick-fil-A and buy a $7 hamburger.
It's sad, isn't
A
it?
chicken burger.
It was
right?
last night too for me, by the way. It was awesome.
Right? Chick-fil-A is amazing. It is wonderful. And actually, I was part of designing that experience, so I'm glad you really liked it. I get a better experience when I go to buy a $7 latte or $8 latte at Starbucks.
Yep.
But when we're asking in the service drive for $3, $4, $5, $6, sometimes upwards of $1,000 worth of work that needs to be done on our vehicles, we're making them wander and wait beside their car for 13 minutes and go 30 minutes without eye contact. And then we're not even looking them in the eye till we want money from them. There's a huge disconnect. And that is what got me into the industry, is that I actually 3.5 years ago now, and listen, I'm not going to pretend that I ever sold a car, because I never have. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm a service advisor, or I went in and I could tell you what needs to be done on a vehicle, because I can't. But what I can tell you is how to treat your customers. And unfortunately, the rest of the world has evolved and automotive has stood still. So your customers that come in to do business with you, their expectations are actually molded by Amazon, Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, Nordstrom. That's what they expect in an experience. And disappointment is expectations not met. I want you to hear that. That's definitely a writable. So if you want to take a note, disappointment is expectations not met. And so if your customers are being treated wonderfully everywhere else outside of the dealership, they're going to be constantly disappointed. I was recently working actually with, and I don't only work in automotive, we own the Alchemy Group, which is a primary based automotive training organization, but we do work outside of that. And I was working with a generator company, and they work very similar actually to OEs, and they have a lot of OE actually clients and partners. But I was doing a brand standards workshop. And so part of that workshop is I asked the attendees to tell me some really negative experience they've had and how it's made them feel. And then I tell them to tell me some really positive experiences that they've had and how it's made them feel. So you can imagine that there's a big gap between the negative and the positive. I was in a room with about, I guess, 25 people in and around there. 75%. Guess what industry? 75% of the negative experiences, guess what industry it came from?
Automotive.
Automotive. And not just sales, a lot of it was service. 75% of the attendees. The other 25 was telephone companies.
Great.
Right? So this is a big, what I love about the industry, and the reason why I'm so excited about it is the fact that you can only go up from here. Now, I know if you're on this call, you're pretty progressive. I'm sure that you're open and willing to learn. So I may be preaching to the choir. However, there's so much that we can do, and not big things, a lot of really little things that we can do to elevate the experience, to create a 5-star experience for our customers in the service drive without actually having to invest a lot of money or change a lot of habits or behaviors. So what I thought I would do for the remainder of the call, unless anybody has any questions, what I'd love to do is take you through those 5 steps. So I had is anybody familiar with Forbes travel guide?
No.
No? Okay. Is anybody familiar with Forbes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So Forbes has a subset called Forbes Travel Guide. And what they do is they go around and they assess spas, hotels, restaurants around the world. And I had the opportunity to work with them very closely, actually, for a year and a half. So I've learned the ins and the outs of what a 5-star experience actually consists of. So what they do when they go to these properties, they rate them 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, which is recommend, 4-star, and then 5-star. There is only 238 5-star hotels in the world. You probably have in your home city, you probably have over 200 hotels, motels, or properties just within your city. And in the world, there's only 238, which means obtaining a 5-star experience is not necessarily easy. However, when I actually break it down for you, you may feel a little bit dumbfounded with, well, why aren't we doing this? And I say it all the time whether I'm on stage or I'm on a call like this or I'm in a dealership, I could write myself out of a job real quickly. Because if each and every one of you and your teams actually were just really nice people and we got off our hamster wheel, the wheel in the back of our head that keeps spinning where we're completely focused on I, and we're not focused on the person in front of us, I would be out of a job, because that's all it really is. It is truly that simple. It's just hard to execute consistently. So are you all ready to hear the 5 tips to creating a 5-star experience?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Yes or yes? Yes or yes? All right, awesome. Okay, so the first one is this, and you might want to write this down, but what you say and how you say it matters. I'm going to say that again. What you say and how you say it matters. So if I go back to the story that I told you about how I stood outside my car, and then finally, like 13 minutes later, an older gentleman came up to me and took my keys. He said, "Do you have keys? Can I have your keys?" Yes, he took my keys. Thanks, darling. How do you think that made me feel? Anybody can answer.
Loved.
Loved? Well, maybe. Maybe if it's my significant other or my child, yes, maybe. Anyone else want to take a stab at that?
Anybody out
How
there?
do you think it made me feel?
Small.
Small, yes, insignificant, right? It's just, I'm just this person that he needs to take the keys from, and I don't even, and he didn't even look me in the eyes. But the thing that happened there was two things. One, it was abbreviated sentences. Do you have, like, where's your keys? Do you have keys? It's not, good evening or good afternoon, hey, thanks for visiting us. Can I grab your keys so we can get you started? Do you see the difference? Do you hear the difference?
Absolutely.
Like, as if there was thought that went into that conversation. And then calling me darling, he could have asked for my name and said, Katie will be right with you. And if you were to actually, and I've done this, I've actually had people role play a proper greeting or conversation versus what they're used to. And it's a 6-second difference. So when your team members tell you that, well, there's not enough time, I'm too busy, it's 6 seconds that makes the difference. 6 seconds, it's crazy. So what you say and how you say it matters throughout the entire process. Now, I know in automotive, we're really good at transaction. We're really good at getting it done. We're so good that we forget about the fact that we're dealing with humans. We're not dealing with machines. I know behind the scenes, dealing with mechanical, and we're dealing with mechanics of an automobile, but in actuality, we're dealing with humans. I actually like to compare it to a hospital. And you may think I'm a bit crazy, but think about it. You have a loved one in for surgery, and you are sitting in the waiting room, and you're waiting for the update from the doctor, and you're nervous and you're anxious and your palms are sweaty, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, is it everything okay? Are there any complications? I mean, especially in the US, I'm from Canada, so luckily enough, we have our healthcare taken care of. But in the US, you're paying for everything. So is this going to be covered in my insurance? Am I going to owe any more? So all of this self-talk and self-narrative goes through your head. I mean, your technicians are car doctors. And your customers, the vehicle is the patient, and your customer is the loved one that's waiting in the waiting room. And they're blind, and they have no idea. And when that interaction starts off without compassion and without empathy and without having proper verbiage and a great tone, you're already setting up the whole experience up for failure. So what you say and how you say it matters. So that's the first tip. The second tip is use your customer's name. But don't stop there. Use your name too. I think it was Dale Carnegie that said, and I'm going to totally butcher the quote, I'm sure, but a person's name is the sweetest words that they hear in any language. Their name is so important to them. And when you use their name, you're automatically telling them that they are important to you. Second to that, using your name actually breaks down the barrier and says, hey, you're human. You're not just, a guy that's taking down my information and not looking up at me. Look up at me with a smile. There is something that I really like to couple with using of names is the 4 S's. So this is definitely something you want to write down. Stop, stand, smile, and speak. So when the customer is about 15 feet away from you, you want to stop what you're doing and stand up. You want to smile at them. And when they're about 5 to 10 away from you, you want to start speaking. And the first thing you want to do is greet them by using elevated language. So what you say and how you say it matters, and getting their name. And when you get their name, Use it as it naturally sees fit. So you might read a whole bunch of books on customer service that says, hey, use the name, and I'm sure you've all read it, 2 to 3 times within an interaction. Has anybody heard that?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. And it's kind of forced, and it's a little mechanical. I always say you want to use the name where it feels natural. You want to create a natural rapport with somebody, not something that is just disingenuous. And when you say the name 2 or 3 times or 4 times in an interaction, sometimes it can seem disingenuous. But make sure you use their name, because it allows them to know that you're paying attention to them, and use your name so that you seem human to them. Does that make sense?
Yep, and it will also help you remember their name.
Yes, it will. That's a great tip. You're right. It will. It will help you remember their name as well. So we want to make sure that you know what you say and how you say it matters. So you want to use elevated language, and you want to use your customer's name. Okay, number 3, you want to collect golden nuggets. Now you may think, what the heck is she talking about, collecting golden nuggets? I went into a dealership, the story I told you, that was 40 minutes away from my house. When he asked for my address, I told him that I lived in Toronto and I was in a different city. What information did I give him? Anyone there?
What information did
You told him you lived in a different city.
Right. So what could he have done with that information?
asked where it is that you do live or why you're visiting that city that you're in?
There you go. So why did you make the 40-minute commute, and why did you choose us? That's a really long drive. Thank you for coming in. Your customers are, well, number one, our favorite person to talk about is us, is ourselves. So if you let your customers talk openly and freely about themselves, they're going to give you all the information you need to know in order to tailor the experience to them. Collecting these golden nuggets, or these little tidbits of information, this is where the tailored experience comes in. If you are actually aware and you're actually listening to your customer, you can, without any effort at all, actually personalize and tailor that experience in an instant. Even more to that, you can anticipate their needs. So he knows I drove in 40, almost lunchtime. What could he have done with those two pieces of information? First of all, before drive, you know I'm not leaving to go back home, right? Like, that's a given. I'm waiting. But it's almost lunchtime and I'm 40 minutes away from home. With that information, how could we have anticipated my needs?
Could have asked if you already had plans for lunch. Could have offered to suggest a place to go for lunch, get you a ride there.
Exactly. Our customers will give us everything we need to tailor the experience. It's up to us to be aware and actually action the information that they give us. I was on so Celebrity Cruise is one of my big clients, and I design their guest experience as well as their internal culture. And I was in Singapore last February on a ship to train the entire ship, the leadership team, and all of the crew members, so 2,000 people, 2,000 plus people. I arrived, and I, unfortunately, with my profession, this is really awful, but I cannot sleep on airplanes. It was a 29-hour flight there, so I hadn't slept, it felt like, in 5 days. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. So I finally get on board the ship, and I get into my suite, and I close the lights, and I get into bed because I have a day and a half before I start training. Just as I'm closing my eyes, the phone rings. I'm like, okay, so I pick it. Mrs. Maris, we need your passport here at documentation in order for us to leave the port. Well, I just put my head down. I have a headache. I've been traveling. Is it possible to give it to you later? Unfortunately, Miss Maris, we can't clear the ship until we have your passport. She hears another big sigh, and she goes, you know what? Why don't I come up and get it from you. Is that anticipatory? Do you think that was anticipating my needs, everyone on the call?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So she comes up 5 minutes later, knocks on the door. I open it up. She goes, I hand her my passport. She goes, Mrs. Maris, I know you said you had a headache. And she hands me, what do you think she hands me?
Aspirin.
Right. Aspirin. And what else do you think she hands me?
Water.
Hopefully
What goes
water.
with aspirin? Water. Exactly. Water. Aspirin, water. So the one piece of information I gave her on the phone was that I had a headache. And she came and took my passport from me so I didn't have to get dressed and go down to the documentation office. And she anticipated my needs by bringing me an aspirin and water. Giving really great anticipatory service and a tailored approach to the experience you provide doesn't need to be expensive, and it doesn't need to be elaborate. But what it does need to do is it needs to listen. You need to listen to your customers, because when you listen to them, they give you the information you need. When you collect those golden nuggets, those little bits of information are the things that will help you to anticipate their needs. And then my number 4 is to deliver the +1. So when you collect the golden nuggets and you anticipate their needs, you can go one step further. And the reason why I use an example outside of the automotive industry is because I wholeheartedly believe that if you are looking at what other automotive dealers are doing, then you're going to fail. At the beginning of the call, in this video chat, I told you that your
I love
customers'
that statement.
expectations, you will fail, I promise you. Because the dealer down the street is not doing what the customer needs or wants, but Starbucks is, and Celebrity Cruises is, and Nordstrom's is, and Ritz-Carlton is. You need to go outside your industry to really understand what your customers need and want.
Katie, on that
Yes.
point, one of the things that I'm always against is a best practices thing. And you know, a lot of times the OEMs will put out, oh, this is the best practices of whatever. And I don't even look at them just for that reason. We already know that we're not doing the right thing. We already know we're not excelling at customer service. So why in the world would I want to take the best practice of someone who is already losing? Maybe they're doing better than you, but they're still losing.
100%. I love that you say that, because I actually work heavily with Honda, and Honda's like really put forward a big push on service excellence and a big push on their cylinders and their 3-year plan and the path that they're taking to improve their CSI and their customer experience. But even Honda doesn't do it right, even though they put all this effort. So when I go into these dealerships, because what the OEM expects of you, and I'm going to say this again because we are really good at process. We're really good at transactional service. I can't even call it's not an experience. We provide a service for money, and that's where it ends. But we want to provide an experience. So we need to go from transaction to interaction. And I get a lot of flack for this because we don't use the word love in the automotive industry. And maybe I'm female and we could chalk it up to that. But I mean, we could have a whole other call about the female consumer. But our physiological reactions to an experience with a brand is actually the same physiological reactions that we have when we're falling in love. So serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine are the hormones that get released when we're falling in love. They're the same hormones that are released when a customer does business with you, when they journey through your dealership. And if those hormones are not released, they don't get those hits of dopamine, the little happiness hits, they're not coming back. The trust will not be there. And so we need to look outside of the industry to come up with the ways, because again, your customers' expectations are now tailored by Ritz-Carlton, Chick-fil-A, Nordstrom, Amazon, Apple once upon a time. They've kind of gone downhill, but a ton of different organizations that are not automotive. So my biggest suggestion, I mean, if you take nothing else from the call today, there was a study done with a group of psychologists, and it revealed that after the age of 16, so I'm going to assume that you're hiring older than 16, right? Because they've got to be able to drive a vehicle, right? So, I mean, in Canada, we get our G1, so we don't have our full license until we're 18, right, here in Canada. So I'm assuming around 17 is what you start to hire. So after the age of 16, it is near to impossible to make or break a habit. So how they come to you is how they come to you. Unless they experience an emotional event. And I want you to listen to this. Unless they experience an emotional event. So your team that you say, hey, I need to change this experience that we're giving our customers. I'm going to be so excited after this call. You're going to go into your dealerships tomorrow and you're going to lay it out, these 5 steps to providing a 5-star experience. My counsel to you is to take them out of the service drive. Send them to Starbucks. Take your teams to a 5-star restaurant and let them emotionally feel what it's like to receive a 5-star experience, because then and only then will they understand how to give a 5-star experience. Ritz-Carlton does it really. Yes.
So
Hi.
This is Gene. Hi, this is Gene. So I used to be a trainer for Saturn. In fact, when we updated our sales processes years ago, I was the lead trainer for the new sales process. And we literally took dealers and their team members into Whole Foods, into Apple stores, into Starbucks. Literally took them in there because this is just right on track with what you're saying. And of course, the rest of General Motors hated it because Saturn customers loved them. But like you said, it's all about transactional attitudes. And so nobody wanted to get on board with that. Now, we really don't have a choice. So I'm totally on board with everything that you're saying. I've experienced it myself too. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Gene. Thank you for saying that. But it's true that we need to be able to take them out of what they are doing day to day, and they need to experience something emotionally for themselves. Ritz-Carlton, I mean, how do you think Ritz-Carlton provides a 5-star experience across the world? They pay just the same minimum wage as everyone else, especially from all the way down from their, the people that clean their room all the way up to their general managers. I mean, I know there's a pay bracket there, but it's all in line with whatever role they have in the industry. Every single employee, it doesn't matter who you are at Ritz-Carlton, you get at least one weekend with your entire family to stay at a Ritz-Carlton resort. Why? Because how can you expect a maid who's being paid $14 an hour, who's trying to make ends meet, know how to treat the gentleman or the lady or the couple or the family who's paying $1,400 a night for a room? They can't unless they experience it themselves. So how can you expect your team to deliver a 5-star experience and know what it means to say what you say and how you say it matters, and elevate your language, to use a customer's name, to collect this information and anticipate your customer's needs? I left off at delivering the +1. So taking it one step further to wow the customer. How do you expect them to be able to do that if they have never experienced it themselves? And when you train your team members and you have your huddles, I'm hoping that everyone on the call has a daily huddle. My hope is. But if you don't, you need to start, and it only needs to be 5 minutes long. But part of Ritz-Carlton's biggest success is that they have a Credo card with 24 standards in them. They review one standard every day for 24 days, and then they start all over again. So every month, these standards get talked about. So you should be having 5-10 minute huddles to talk about all this stuff. But connect it outside of the industry. Ask them to share stories about the experiences they've had as a consumer themselves. How am I doing on time here? Because I could talk forever. What am I doing here? I have about 15 minutes.
You're good. You're good.
All right, good. Can I tell you all a story?
Of course.
I'm a big fan of stories. Okay, so I travel a lot, and I've got 3 kids. So I've got 9-year-old twins and a 6-year-old. And when I'm home, bedtime is so important. It's like a sacred time in my house. We sing lullabies and we read books, and I'm not the parent that says get in your bed and close the door and then go escape, right? Like I'm the mom that lays with my kids until they're snoring. Like that's me. People think I'm crazy, but that's me. My little one, Riley, so my 6-year-old, gets so excited for bedtime. She will literally, her little feet will pitter patter up the stairs, and she'll get into her room, and her room is all white. Her furniture, the walls, and except for she's got this like daisy light that sits on her wall. It hangs on her wall, and when you turn it on, the whole room glows pink. And so the room is pink, and we throw back the covers, and she hops into bed. She goes, "Mama, mama, mama." Yes, Riley. Can we read a page of my book? So we pull out her book, and it's this little book about mice going on adventures because she's 6. And when she says to read 1 whole page, we mean 2 whole pages. So we read 2 whole pages, and on these pages, there's these italicized bubble letters, big bolded letters, different colors. And when we're done reading those pages, she points them out and we read them, which is good for sight words. It's a good exercise. We close it up, and I put her book in the nightstand. I close off the light, and the whole room goes dark. I kiss her on the bridge of her nose, and she goes, "Mama, I love you so much." And in those moments, every night, my heart just like, oh my gosh, it melts, it explodes. Who on the call heard the pitter patter of the feet going up the stairs? Say yes.
Yes.
Who saw the whole room glow pink? Yes?
Yeah.
And a little girl hopping into bed. Anybody?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes.
And when the room went dark, did you see the room go dark? Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And could you feel what I felt as a mom, as my heart melted and exploded when she says, "Mama, I love you so much"?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is the power of storytelling. I just shared an experience with you, and you were in my world. So with your teams, when they have experiences with customer service as a consumer, get them to share these experiences, because your team members that are listening insert themselves into that story, and they learn without even realizing that they're learning. They have an emotion. At the end, you felt how I felt, right? You had that emotion. They will have an emotional reaction, which means you'll be far more successful at changing habits and behaviors. Share stories. Stories are going to be the glue that binds your team together and elevates your experience.
Yeah.
All right, last.
Katie, on that, if I can stop you on that one thing, the emotions and it around memories, which obviously is what all your experiences for your customers are coming back to. It's not really the memory of the experience, right? It's the memory of the emotion that they felt during that experience. So it doesn't matter, what the memory was. It matters what the emotion was that you instilled in them during that transaction, if you will.
Without a doubt. So we make decisions based off of our limbic brain. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with Simon Sinek. If you're not, you should totally look him up. Start with the why. But our limbic brain is our emotion and memory hub of our brain. Oh, little girl, she's so cute. Hi, I just talked about my little girl.
Say hi.
Hey, hi. Oh, we have 2 of them. Hi. Oh my gosh, what's your name?
I relate to your story.
Oh, you do relate. You do.
I
oh
see
my
it.
gosh. Yes. Oh, your daughters are beautiful.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you for joining us. Thank
The little
you.
one has been watching all along, so it's been
Oh,
good.
all right. Oh, good, good. I'm glad. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Oh, she's adorable. They're both adorable.
Thank you.
I think your daddy's probably saying it's time for bed, though.
Yeah, no, that's
Right?
exactly where they're going. They're going to bed right now.
All right. Sweet dreams, ladies. Sweet dreams.
All right, girls.
Good night, Daddy.
Oh, okay. A little sidetrack there. I love babies. They're awesome. Okay, so but our emotion and memory hub is our limbic brain, and it actually drives all of our decisions. So our prefrontal cortex, which is the front of our brain, that processes facts and figures. And we actually don't make the decisions on whether or not we're going to purchase off of the facts and figures. Even though we think we do, we don't. And it is how we feel that drives our decisions. So to your point, Dave, it's so important that your customers leave feeling great. If you focus on any part of the interaction, now listen, the whole experience is super important, but the bookends of the experience are the ones that are going to stick. So your first impression, that 13 minutes that I was standing all by myself feeling confused, and the last impression, still not knowing my service advisor's name and paying, I think my bill was like $700, paying my bill.
Right.
No, right? Like that's what I remember. The in-between, I mean, we're human. We're going to drop the ball. It's going to happen, which leads me to my last tip. And that is that you need to be a hero. And what I mean by this is we, as I said, we are human. We are going to drop the ball. We are not perfect. And our customers know this, and our customers are not perfect. But how we recover from a service failure actually eclipses, if it's the greatest companies, the greatest organizations in the world have designed their service recovery so that eclipses the actual service failure and creates more brand loyalty. When I use the words be a hero, it's an acronym. So I'm going to give you 4 steps on how you can properly address a service failure. So 1, the H is to hear. Now, I want you to actually listen, actively listen to your customer. I need you to hear them, not what you think or what you think they're saying. I need you to hear what they are saying. I want you to show empathy. So that's the E, empathy and compassion. Always err on the side of empathy and compassion. I don't know if you know this, but as humans, we actually have over 20,000 moments in our day. We experience over 20,000 moments in our day, and our brain tells us whether or not we've had a good day or a bad day based off of our good, neutral, and poor moments in our day. When a customer walks through your door or drives through your service drive, you don't know how many good moments they've had since they've woken up or how many poor moments they've had. Unfortunately, our brain throws away the neutral ones, so they have actually no weighting on our day. But if we have more bad moments, we consider ourselves having a tough day. If we have more good moments, positive moments, we've had a better day. So when they drive into your service drive or walk through your door, you don't know how many good, bad, ugly moments that they have had in their day. So you need to err on the side of empathy and compassion. Always, because you don't know, maybe they just lost their father, maybe their kid is sick in the hospital, maybe they're trying to make ends meet, maybe they've just got a promotion and they're ecstatic. Like, you just don't know. And a lot of the times we forget our power, and I say this, and I would say this to customers too, as organizations, we are like puppeteers and our customers are our puppets. We have the power to be the best part of their day if we so choose. But a lot of the time we get so wrapped up in ourselves that we choose not to be the highlight of their day. So show empathy and compassion. You want to resolve the concern. So that's the R, you want to resolve it. And then you want to own it, because at the end of the day, it may not be your fault, but it is your problem. If the customer is upset, whether they did it wrong or you did it wrong or they screwed up or you screwed up, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's your business, it's your brand. It may not be your fault, but it is your problem. And the one thing, and I keep going back to Ritz-Carlton because they're one of the greatest organizations when it comes to a consistent customer experience. And hear that, consistent, every customer, every time, consistent customer experience. They own it. When something goes wrong, they say, Mr., Mrs. Joe, Mr., Mrs. Naras, whatever it is, I'll take care of that. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. But what does matter is that you take care of it so that your customer feels taken care of. And I use that word feel with purpose. So back to your point, Dave, they need to feel taken care of. And when they feel taken care of, that actually eclipses the actual service failure. Now, one other stat I'm going to give you before I'm done rambling, and I could ramble all night long, but one other stat I'm going to give you is this. It takes 12 positive interactions to make up for one negative. It is 12 to 1. And I believe that we all have a zero balance trust account with every single new customer that comes through the door. And it is up to us to put in positive deposits into that trust account so that we have a little bit of a buffer, because when we drop the ball, because we are going to drop the ball, and it is okay to drop the ball because we are human, but when we do, we have a little leeway. But if we haven't put positive deposits or good moments, right, being the highlight of their day into this trust account, what's going to happen? We're going to go into overdraft. And once you go into overdraft, remember, it's 12 to 1, 12 positive behaviors to make up for one negative behavior. Good luck getting up to that zero balance. You've lost your customer because they're going to go to an aftermarket shop, or they're going to go to the dealer that's 10 minutes down the street. You need to be heroes. You need to elevate your experience. And, you know, it's a stat that I've been using for about 4 years now. And unfortunately, or fortunately, 2020 has arrived. But they said 4 or 5 years ago, by the year 2020, customers are going to care more about experience. Experience is going to override price and quality. Listen, they can find out anything they want out online. So when they drive through your service drive, they've chosen you. They could choose anyone else. And if you're not on the experience bandwagon right now, you're going to fail. And as the industry softens, listen, I mean, fixed ops is where it's at, because the industry is softening in sales. And if you don't capitalize on the experience your customers are receiving, then you're going to lose, period. And I know it's a bit of harsh reality, and I practice radical honesty, and I only say this because I know, gentlemen, you can handle it, but it's the truth. And if we don't focus on the experience we provide, then you're going to lose your customers. You're not going to have customers for life. And not only will, you know, the sales drop in the dealership right now, it'll soften a little bit, but you won't be able to keep the dealership afloat with the fixed ops, you know, income coming in.
Right. Katie, if I can jump back to, you were talking about
Yes.
the bookends of the bookends of the experience. And one of my advisors is on the call tonight, who has kept himself muted all night because he doesn't feel he doesn't feel he can hang with the big dogs. So what I always tell them is they finish with the transaction of the customer. The customer is paying them. They've brought the customer to the cashier. The customer's paying their invoice, and they'll walk back through to get to the service drive to get to their car. And at times they don't walk them with them to their car. And they'll say, Katie, thank you very much. We'll see you next time. But they don't walk the person to their car. And I keep calling it the walk of shame for the customer who has to walk to their car themselves. And that's that last emotional piece, right? That's your last chance to elevate that emotional experience that they had to make them want to come back.
So true. And I mean, sorry, go ahead.
You want to take it one step further. Don't walk into the car. Don't wave to them. We'll pull your car up for you. And then you open the door when you walk up right to the front door. That's the 5-star experience.
That is.
And we do have the car in the drive. you know, that part is done. Although I will say, when I got there, I watched a few times with people saying, "Oh, your car's over there." Now we have a beautiful service drive, and they're letting customers walk out to find their car in the parking lot, like it's a 1970s Ford.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, another, you know, so when I talk to delivering the +1 is taking it one step further. So you may not be able to pull the car up every single time, but when you do, that would be a +1. That's a great example of a +1. Or if it's a woman, okay, so let's face it, I haven't talked about women. We could come on and do a whole show on custom her experience, and I'd be happy to, talking about the female consumer. But a woman will always have at least 2 purses on her filled with everything but the kitchen sink. She will have a coffee and a cell phone and everything going. And so when she comes into the service drive, that a +1 would be, yeah, there you go. There you go. Open the door for her. There you go. You've got it all right there. But chivalry doesn't have to be dead. So that is an example of +1. Another +1 would be if it's raining or snowing. If it's snowing, you know, have the car warm. If it's raining, take an umbrella and walk your guest to the vehicle if you can't pull it up. So there's multiple different ways, and none of this, gentlemen, none of this costs more money. It takes a little bit more time, which I know time is money, but oh my gosh, the reward is a loyal customer, and loyal customers spend more money with you and they refer you. It is worth the investment of a few extra seconds or a few more minutes to gain a customer for life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You had you said it may not be your fault, but it's your problem. My spin on that I always use is that, and now I started saying that and my brain's gone dead. This is why you're a professional speaker and I'm not. I remember what it is. It's that you're not there to win an argument. You're there to win a customer. And
I love that.
You see that from advisors, managers, anybody within the dealership who is literally going to argue with a customer, and you're never going to win that.
Yep.
You can win that argument. You lost that customer. So did you win anything?
Yeah, you know, lose every time. I love that, Dave. Lose every time. And actually, I mean, if I can add one more, you know, when you actually, if you change the frame of mind of what a customer is, and call them a guest. So if you asked your team, how would you treat a guest in your home? You know, you're going to open the door, you're going to greet them, you're going to offer them a beverage, you're going to ask them how they're doing, you're going to give them eye contact, you're going to make them feel welcomed, you're going to make sure that they have a good time, then you're going to walk them to the door again, you're going to bid them farewell, and you're probably going to, not that we're going to hug our customers, but if they're guesting your home, you're going to give them a hug, you're going to say, it was so great to meet you. Why are our customers guests in our service drive? So why are they customers? Why aren't they guests? So
you want a great example?
I do.
Google the Lexus Covenant.
I've seen it. Yeah, but I'll read it again. Yes.
Every person that works for Lexus carries that card in their pocket, and it truly is amazing.
Yeah, and so a lot of work. I mean, when I work. Sorry.
And it talks to this: to treat a customer, we will treat the customer like a guest in our home.
And I mean, any major organization. So Disney, for example, I mean, they have a credo. Ritz-Carlton has a credo, which is like a covenant. So they have a brand promise that they stand for. They have pillars. They have values. Disney, I'm a graduate of Disney Institute, and they have their keys. You know, they've got 4 things that everybody has to live up every single time. Ritz-Carlton has 24 standards. Whatever way you want to slice or dice it, it's just everybody's got to get behind it. And as leaders, and I'm assuming I have mostly leaders, and if I don't, you can be a leader within your team by just changing what you do and start telling stories. So, you know, and maybe that's the first thing you do when you get back to your dealership is, hey, listen, I want to elevate the experience, but in order to do that, let's change our mind frame. Let's call them guests. What do we do when a guest comes into our home? And get them to tell you, get them to share their emotions, and then start the conversation from there.
Absolutely.
Katie.
Yes.
What do you drive?
What do I drive? I drive a Hyundai.
What year is it?
2008, no, 17? 17?
2000.
Santa Fe XL.
Oh, nice. And then, so why did you say you traveled 40 miles away to get your car service there?
Because I was consulting with the dealership.
Oh, you know what I would have done? Because I sold all my vendors' cars. I would have put you in a brand new one and sent you to lunch.
See? Love that. I would have loved that because I could have gotten out, done some work, and I probably would have traded the vehicle in because Hyundai has a beautiful, the big new one that's out.
Palisades.
I can't even pretend that I know what it's called. Yes. I have 3 kids. I would have been all over that.
Yep, it would have worked perfect for you.
Mm-hmm. That's a great suggestion.
Thanks for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. Anybody have questions for Katie? And just remember, most of you guys are on mute. You got to unmute yourselves to speak.
So Dave,
Yes,
if
sir.
if you remember when we were on the customer retention one that I was speaking on Fixed Ops Mastermind, Katie brought up wow factor, and if anybody recalls that was on that meeting, you know, that's something I bring up with the team members when I worked in dealerships. Ask them to bring their wow factor stories to the table so that everybody understands what it takes to elevate the customer experience. And one more thing I'd like to add, when I worked for Penske Motor Group out here, Greg Penske used to take us to the Ritz-Carlton for quarterly meetings, management staff, just to get that experience. So a couple of similar scenarios to what you were talking about.
Well, I love it. And as I said, everyone on the call is probably super progressive because you're on this call, which is wonderful. Now it's how do we get it out to everyone else, right? How do we all sing that same song and get people to start following? And it starts really with you because you're all here for a reason. You all believe in it, and just getting your team, you know, making sure they're on board.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we're here. It's why I started this, was so that we could reach a broader audience and get this message out further. As all of us want to leave this business a little bit better than we found it. So anybody else with questions? Everybody else is so quiet.
Well, I will say, usually the questions happen after the fact anyway. So, I mean, reach out to me, private message me. I'm pretty open like that. We're all friends now. So making sure that if you have questions, don't hesitate to drop me a link on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever which way you want to do it. Drop me an email, katie@katiemaris.com.
Hey, Kate,
and I'm happy
I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Reed.
So what do you expect then when you did get there and it was lunchtime and you drove 40 miles away and you had a 2.5 hour wait? What would you what do you expect a service customer or a service to do for you?
So, I mean, the thing is I didn't, so here it's almost a double-edged sword with the automotive industry. So on one end, and you're kind of stuck between, you know, a rock and a hard place. On one end, you have your customers that are conditioned by all these amazing experiences. But on the other end, they're also conditioned to fear coming into a dealership. So the expectations are actually, you know what they should get, so they're doing it every time. Then on the other end, the expectations are so low that if you did the littlest thing, they would be super excited about it and they would be completely satisfied. So what I expect, it's hard for me to say this because I shop dealerships all the time, but what I expect when I come in is at least to be greeted, to use my name, to have eye contact, like all the basic stuff. I don't expect to be given a vehicle. I don't expect to be asked to go to lunch, but if a dealership did that, it would knock my socks off. So that would be a great example of anticipating needs and delivering the +1. So taking it one step further. But a customer, I mean, the basics, they expect people to be nice people and to be humans interacting with humans.
The customer experience at my dealer is so good that I drive an hour one way to get my car serviced. I put a lot of miles on the car, so I'm there frequently. And there are 2 local dealers right near my house. One of them offered express service. When I walked in to have my car express serviced, they asked me what day next week I wanted to come back. I turned around and walked out.
Yeah.
Except for the Apple CarPlay, right, Paul?
Yeah. It's like, what part of express service did I misunderstand?
Oh, it's I mean, customers will go out of the way. They will to do business with brands that they trust and they get an experience from. I mean, price really becomes irrelevant. It really does. When they're emotionally bought into you, it is too hard to make relationships these days because we say we're social, right? But we're on the phone and our heads are down. We say we're social beings, we're not. So it's too hard for us to come out of our shells and make these relationships now, especially with the newer generations, that if you've got them, you got to keep them and you've got to create that relationship because they're not going to want to earn that relationship with anyone else. They're not going to want to give their trust away to anyone else.
It's all about the relationship. When I ran my shops, they were coming to me for anything and everything they needed, even stuff we didn't do.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's let Katie get back to her writing. And, Katie, I will definitely take you up on that offer, and we will have you back another time to.
Oh, for sure. Let's talk about the female consumer. I'm so excited to do that.
Absolutely. That's as we all know, we've been in this business a long time. It's probably upwards of 60% of women that bring the cars in, and
it's a little bit more, but yeah.
It's that was just off the top of my head, but I mean that's what you see every day, and even if they're not the ones bringing it in, they certainly have a big say in what's the expense on that vehicle. So. We got to know how to handle that part of our business better.
I'd love to.
Thank you so very much for being here and sharing with us. We greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
If for anybody who is on the call who has not received their credentials to be able to get into the website, fixedopsmastermind.com, I know, Paul, I've sent it to you twice now, and I don't know why it doesn't. You must have some serious spam filters. Just shoot me a message on LinkedIn, Paul. You don't have to, I already know, but anybody else who has not received their link, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn so I can try and get that squared away, so we can get the community going in there. Any questions anybody has or whatever, certainly post them in there. Katie, again, thank you very much. The Fixed Ops Mastermind was happy to have you here. A group of
thank you.
Impressive people who learned a lot tonight. Shout out to Owen Moon and Fixed Ops Digital, our great partners, and also the people who built this website that works incredibly well. We certainly appreciate everything they've done for us. Everybody, have a great night. Weeks. We will see you again.
Cheers. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.
My pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
Good night, guys.
Good night, John boy.